Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hello, parents. Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast. Don and Suzanne Manning here, but today we're not going to talk about Don and Suzanne Manning because we're going to talk about what a host of other people have said. So take it away, Suzanne.
Well, yeah, so I call this podcast the COVID-19 Marriage Podcast. And I've just been not burdened for the marriages out there. I mean, I don't know if burdened is probably too strong of a word, but I've just really been praying for you guys because I know that a lot of things have changed over the past few months. And sometimes change really affects that marriage relationship. And so what I did was I just sent a communication line out to a whole bunch of Crazy Cool families. And I asked them two questions. I said, tell me what some of your struggles have been in adjustments during this time frame, and then share with me some of the things that have made your marriage grow and has enhanced your marriage. And so we have a whole slew of ideas. People just poured in information, and so we are going to fast track through this.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire through this. All the places where they've grown in their struggles, and hopefully you'll resonate. And then we're going to just give you tons of ideas that they did, which are great ideas to strengthen and enhance your marriage. Okay, so
first we're going to talk about the struggles.
Yeah, get the hard stuff out of the way first.
That's right. What'd you find out when you talked to these crazy cool parents about their struggles in their marriage what's been different about the coronavirus time?
Well, you know what I think is really cool is, and then the couples showed me this as well, is that God's desire is to make things good and to make things right and to give us perspective to learn and to grow. And so with all of the struggles, they gave a solution. I mean, they shared with us what the struggle was, but then they got to the other side of it with a solution. So we're not going to leave you hanging with a whole bunch of negative stuff. We're actually going to give we're actually going to give you their solution. So
the first one here is just working from home together under the same roof. The kids didn't understand, and they felt rejected because dad was home. Many of our parents, the mom's usually at home, and the dad's coming into the house. So maybe you guys can relate to that. But the kids were like, hey, Dad, you're here. You're our playmate, right?
Oh, yes. We heard that even from the beginning when we did our FaceTime Live conversations. That's what the parents said, too, as well, is that we're having a hard time trying to get our kids to understand this. And so they came up with a solution, though, which was to communicate clearly when Dad was able, when he was available, when he was ready to play with them, and to strategize that out. And okay, Dad, you do need to come out more than once a day. You need to come out. And when you do come out, you hug your kids and you interact with them. And maybe you play a real quick game of kickball before you get back to your meeting. And
it seemed like, though, the wives said that was great and that was a great solution, but then they didn't feel like they had that the dad could get on his conference call or whatever, but the mom was now homeschooling and wasn't used to it. And so she was running around like crazy.
And I think that, and I can totally relate to that as well. Because when Dad's home, he helps take the burden off and he carries some of that. And so one of the moms said that she would feel like her hair was on fire when she was trying to get some stuff done and she needed her husband to help her. And on the weekends he did, but during the week he didn't because it was a different dynamic. And so they had to figure out, you guys had to figure out how to get along. And they did that.
And how to do this homeschooling. The dad maybe had to come in and help sometimes when the mom's hair was on fire or whatever.
Because she got a whole new role of responsibilities as well.
So It was all changing, so everybody's trying to work together to find a new normal for daily life. And some of it was, they said here that they had to let their ideals go a little bit. And really kind of have a new norm.
Yeah.
And so maybe that helps you parents to maybe create a new norm.
Yeah, and then one mom said she had to not micromanage her husband all the time because he was not doing it how she wanted it to be done.
Oh, I could see that. But that also works with like cooking and cleaning up. So there's a whole lot more of that going on during the day now because kids might have been in school and now everybody's at home all day.
Oh, and there was one mom that shared the best story, and she just said he came home expecting to have these fabulous fabulous gourmet out to lunches, and he wanted me to fix them, and he didn't realize that sometimes we just eat a popcorn and a cheese stick and an apple.
Yeah, he thought that they prepared like these elaborate breakfasts and elaborate lunches every day.
Yeah, and she goes, dude, I have to homeschool the children now. I can't take care of you too. And so their solution was that he was on his own for breakfast and lunch. And when he came out and he fixed his own lunch, and she wasn't responsible for that anymore. And that really helped, even with those unrealistic expectations of, oh, honey, you're here to feed me. You feed me dinner every night. You should feed me all the meals now that I'm home.
And that's a bad expectation. Is that we shouldn't feel like that as husbands. So
no, definitely. My teenage sons don't even expect that.
I think that, so more school, dad's home, maybe mom's home. And I think that it has also helped people to feel kind of burned out because people are always there. There's always another meal to prepare. There's always school to do, all the things going on at the home. It just felt like they didn't get a break.
Yeah, exactly. And I love one of the solutions. What they said is that they would make time or take space for breathers for each person. And so somebody would go on a walk by themselves, or they'd go run an errand, and it would be just them. And so they built time into their schedule where they didn't have the responsibilities of anybody else.
It just reminds me of the scripture, Jesus. I've been reading the Gospels, and Jesus talks about how he took time to pray. He took time to be alone. And that's just what it is. It's just making sure that both spouses have alone time.
Well, and it's so good that you said that too, because that was one of the things that they talked about as well, is that they made sure that each of their spouses had alone time to spend with Jesus. And so that was something that they had done on their own individual, in their own lives, when the kids were off for school and they had gone to work or whatever that was. But now that they were all forced together, they found that time with Jesus had got squished out of the way, and they now need to sacrifice their own time to give that to the other person.
I've heard so many parents talk about how they just drive around in the car now. and they just go drive somewhere just because that's somewhere they can be alone, and they're not driving. I mean, I put a lot less miles on my car right now.
Oh yeah, and gas.
And they said every day feels like the same day. It's just a big blur.
I totally resonated with this when they said that, because I feel like that too. And so for us, and then even they said the same thing too, to make the weekend special and different. And so that to go do something fun with the kids, or to work together on a project, to talk about the expectations, make sure that you're on the same page, you accomplish things and prioritize, spell them out for each other. One mom said that we used to make a super long list, and we always failed at completing it because we have so many kids and they would get in the way of us getting our things accomplished. And so now exactly. So now just do one or two things. And she goes, and we would get those things done. And so they said that we would talk to each other by saying things like, what are your hopes and dreams for the next couple days? What do you want to do? A yard project? Do we want to go on an adventure with the kids? What do we want to accomplish? And then how do we want to have fun? And so they are just specifically and intentionally talking to each other about the weekend that's coming up, so it is set apart and different.
And then so many parents just said out of all this stuff that's happening, there were arguments, there were power struggles, who's in charge of what, because now the routine is that, you were in charge of this, but now everybody's home and it's different.
Well, and it was like weekend mode. When dad's home, it's always fun, but every day has been weekend mode. And so how do you break out of that how do you create a new normal?
Yeah, and one of the things that came out of that is one of the parents said that we need to assume the best in each other. And that really helped them to break through that, because, it's like, oh, you're being, we tend to think sometimes, oh, our spouse is being selfish. And in reality, so often, I know that when we have issues, sometimes I'm trying to help, but or you're trying to help, and we're taking it wrong. So some of that is just, we got more of that going on.
Yeah, just believing that we're on each other's team, we're for each other, we're looking out for each other. Yeah,
and I think some of the parents, and this kind of will end our struggles with this one, parents were feeling overwhelmed and also just kind of sad with the emotion of it all. And when we are overwhelmed and sad, we're usually not our best selves.
Right. Yeah. And I think that they were saying that the reasons they were is just the overall thing of what's happening in the world, but also overwhelmed with that there was no outside help. And that they were day in and day out. This is their life, cooking and cleaning, breaks. No breaks. You can't go get a babysitter. You can't leave the children unattended. Right. And you still have your responsibilities and then added responsibilities.
And they talked about just having open lines of communication of, husbands, sometimes I will come in and Suzanne was just sad, and parents talked about that. Maybe
usually when I went shopping, that's for a few weeks and there was no toilet paper on the aisles.
That's right. And just, and however, I'm talking from a husband perspective, but it would be just letting your wife cry, and it being okay, not feeling like you have to fix it or anything, just letting the emotions come out, because this is something we've never gone through.
Yeah. And so, along with that, this couple was telling us that they had to have seasons of like repentance. I'm sorry I was so harsh. I'm sorry I wasn't understanding. And I'm sorry that I'm being selfish. I'm sorry that I'm being controlling. And so they had to repent and ask for forgiveness with each other. It was part of the healing and part of the reconciliation of this new season of marriage.
Yeah.
So good. I just thought it was so good.
So that just comes back to ask forgiveness, and just reconcile and be the first. And I always tell dads this, that, man, you're the leader of the home. Be the first to ask forgiveness. Be the first to reconcile, and be the first.
And I tell the moms that too.
But so many, you can tell we just kind of rapid fire, but through this, and
it'll be in the notes. We'll have a list of it so you can go back and study them and add your own to it.
But can we go to the fun stuff now?
Yeah, let's do the fun stuff. Don loves the fun stuff.
Yeah, let's go and see what they did to bring life and connection to the marriage.
Okay, so the first one right out of the chute was to be more affectionate. They were just saying that now that everybody's home, take advantage of that time to, walk by and pat each other and hug each other, touch each other, stuff like that.
Yep. And they also talked about, just being intentional to pursue each other. So often, even being overwhelmed, sometimes we have a tendency to check out, and we needed to pursue each other in that regard, to, just asking questions about their world, what's going on with their world. Those are things that I find with our marriage, even if I'll engage you and just say, hey, tell me about your day, or tell me something that, and you've done this just the last couple of days, what's something new that
I wouldn't know if you didn't tell me.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What I would tell him. What's something new? Well, Don leaves and goes to work, so you guys that'll be a fun question for y'all to ask if you're spending all day together.
Yeah.
But I do, along with that, asking and making time to talk about the things that are going on, to share how you're feeling, like how you're really, really feeling, what's going on in your head, what are you thinking about, and what's bothering you, because I do have a tendency to check out and withdraw. And so that is, we just, as married couples, to draw each other out. I was so grateful that they listed that. Yeah, that's true. We need to do that. We need to ask. We need to ask. We need to ask.
And as they did that, a lot of couples talked about just praying together and making sure that because that also, when you pray, you tend to pray for the things that you want, and brings out a lot of things, as well as our Heavenly Father gets to help us. That's always a good thing.
Yep. And then they talked about doing like creative in-home dates, and to make it special, to put the kids to bed early, do like a little cheese board and sit out on the patio or sit in the living room and do something fun or special. And then some just said, we just watch TV together. It's like they were saying that they look forward to getting the kids in bed and just kind of vegging together separately, as they're living in someone else's world for a little while.
Could be reading a book, each of us separately reading a book, or it could be watching a TV show or whatever. Those are all good things to do. And they talked about too, just share with each other what they're grateful for. So you see this progression, not necessarily progression, but different aspects of it, talking about what happened in your day, and then praying together, and then choosing to be grateful and talking about gratefulness. That's such a good remedy. It's got good medicine, to the relationship.
And then that flows into the other piece of advice that someone had given, which was choose joy as a couple every day, even when it seems impossible, even when you want to rip your hair out because the kids are driving you crazy. She would say that her husband would come in and he would sing the song. I think it's "Give me joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my soul." And she said it was cheesy, but it was so funny, and it reminded them to choose joy, and it just strengthened and built them up. And so I think that's so powerful, along with gratefulness, is joy, and it is a choice.
Yeah, and another parent said that they started telling the story, sharing the story with, I love this, that they were sharing the story with their spouse that they were telling themselves. In other words, she was talking about how her husband was looking at his phone while they were talking. And
like she was sharing something intimate or, personal, and she got offended.
Yeah, and she thinks at that time, my husband doesn't care. He thinks I'm boring. He's like, oh my goodness, my boss, I'm still working, and my boss has sent me a text and I need to respond to it. So when she said that and they were able to clarify it, she didn't feel unimportant anymore. She knew that there was something that was a real crisis that he needed to resolve there.
Yeah, that's so good to once again be intentional and talk about it.
Yeah.
Tons of people told us to make sure you have a date. Make sure you have a date at least once a week. And they gave some practical advice that, once again, since babysitting is not an option, then create a play date for your kids, that they have a special snack, that they watch a movie, that they have their own date in another room. And so it might not even be at bedtime yet, so that you do create that space so that you can, and then this is another thing, have fun together.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool how some of these parents, they talked about they had virtual date nights with other couples. I mean, I haven't done that. I mean, they
like a Zoom call.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of our younger parents are more technologically
and way more hip than we are.
Yeah, well, and they're also more technologically oriented. So they were like playing Mario Kart on Nintendo Switch online together. I was like, like our teenagers do.
Yeah.
But those, so that was really fun for them to do that. But one of the things to really be careful of is to in this stuff is to stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. A lot of the parents talked about how just not comparing your marriage to other marriages, and especially when we get, we think everybody else.
Especially when the world you get is on social media, so it feels like you can easily compare. Anyway.
And it seems like everybody's doing things better and everybody's doing things different than you are, and you're, what the enemy wants to do is to tell you that you're failing in a unique way.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
that you are, everybody else has got it together and you don't, and you're screaming at your kids and nobody else is, and everybody's homeschooling so well. Hey, just get better yourself. That's really just to take care of your own business and kind of stay in your lane with that.
Yeah, so one couple said that they were reading a book called Cherish, that they chose this time to start reading that book. It's a book by Gary Smalley. We actually haven't read it. I mean, so
we've talked about reading it a lot.
Well, there's a video series that Focus on the Family it has done. And so that is definitely a quality in our marriage that we want to do better at. We want to cherish each other better. And she was just saying that they started dialoguing like, husband, what am I doing that does not make you feel cherished? And what can I do to cherish you? And then he started doing the same things. He started helping with the kids and picking up the playroom and putting the kids to bed for her in the evening.
Well, and what was interesting to me is that it says, my husband tries to show me he cherishes me by cleaning the dishes, helping with the kids.
What is it? Sex starts in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And so while I'm putting the kids to bed, or while she was putting the kids to bed, he was doing those things, and that made her feel cherished. It's not it would also be the romantic things, but really just the service things. She probably has the gift of the gift of service, or
right.
the love language of service.
Yeah.
So find out what your spouse's love language is if you don't know, and
it might simply be just helping them.
Or it might be just giving them a hug. It could be,
yes.
It could be just holding them, or, like we talked about before, just going by and giving them a little pat or whatever, and tell them you love them.
All right, so we just have a few more, and I love this one. I asked couples that had baby marriages, a couple years old marriages, all the way to 20-year-old marriages, and this one, she came in and she just said, well, we have trained ourselves over time to lean into Jesus and to each other instead of pulling away, because our natural reaction is to pull away, especially during times of chaos or disorder, or when things are not like we want them to be. And so what we do, instead of pulling away, we press in and we ask, what unmet expectations left me hurting, disappointed, frustrated? Yep. And that right there has helped so much in this unstudied time. I thought, oh my goodness, parents, if you pay attention to that. We just did a Lean In podcast a few weeks ago with the Shields, and this is what it's talking about. Instead of, the enemy wants to divide and conquer. That's what he wants to do. And so if we will do the opposite of that, and if we will lean in and go toward our spouse and do the intentional conversations, then it's just going to knit us together.
And then as we're starting to wrap up our challenges, or our inspirations, I should say, then, hey, sex. Okay, I like talking about that. Let's do that. So it's great. Sometimes when you're overwhelmed,
right.
when you're busy, what goes? Well, the sex life goes. A lot of times you're going to bed exhausted. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or you're sick of each other because you've spent all day together. And so that's the last thing you want to do. And so
no. Let's don't do that.
definitely press in, because that sex is obviously a different kind of connection. It takes care of everything else. I tell my daughters who are newly married, the best way to fix it, whatever it is to have sex.
Especially
just
for
have
the
sex.
guy.
Yeah, just have sex. That'll fix it. If you're fighting, just have sex. If you're getting along, have sex. If you're not getting along, have sex. That's how you fix it.
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
And then this is, I hope this is the mantra for every single one of you. This mom wrapped this up like this. She said she's loved this time the last few months. And then she knows when it goes back to normal, it's going to be hard because it means less time with her husband. Because it's been one of the sweetest times in their marriage. And I hope that this has been that this time that you've been given, because it has been a gift of time, that you've been given to hang out with each other and get to know each other and do life with each other at a whole different level than you've probably ever done in your marriage before, that it is a sweet time. And you do look back on it as a sweet time. And as the world starts getting busy again and we start getting called back into the workplace, that it is a sweet memory, and that you take what you've learned, those struggles and those things that have strengthened your marriage, and you move forward with them.
Yeah, and you might not have a marriage that's like that right now. It may have exposed some things in your marriage.
I'm sure it did.
But
yes.
For some people it has been, but if you're a couple that has struggled, then think about what are you going to do to make this month of the next few weeks, whatever that is, through May and June as we go into life. What are you going to do to make your marriage a sweet marriage? And what are you going to do to have a sweet memory out of it, to change those things into...
And so with that, we have a challenge for you. So one of these nights, put your kids to bed early. Do that in-home date that they all talked about. And talk about your marriage. How has it grown? Brag on each other. This is not a time to bring up that, well, you did this and I hate this and I wish you wouldn't do this. And if you'd done this differently, get rid of all of that, because remember, you want the night to end in sex. And so you want to say positive, encouraging, uplifting things. Talk about the wins. Donna and I talk about talk about that all the time. We look back the week and say, okay, this was a win. This was a win. We did this great. And we loved this. And so that's what your challenge is to get together with your spouse and you guys talk about the good things that have happened.
So often when we talk about when we think about talking about our marriage, I call it marriage analysis time.
Oh, yeah. I'm
analyze the relationship.
Really bad at it.
And
I'm really good at it than I do it.
How we can improve it. Forget that in this date. Just talk about the wins. Tell your spouse how much you love them, why you love them.
How beautiful they are,
yes.
How fun they are, how smart they are.
Exactly. And what they do well. Don't worry about, and don't qualify. You don't get to qualify your praise with, you do that well, but if you just do this as well, forget that. Just talk to them about good stuff, about what you're grateful for about them, things like that.
Yeah, and so just know that marriage is a dynamic relationship that's forever changing with each season. As each person changes, the marriage relationship itself changes. But to do that, to change in a positive way, the marriage needs attention. That's what allows it to strengthen and grow. And we've been given this crazy amount of attention. I mean, this crazy amount of time
to give
each other this attention. And so I just want to encourage you to monopolize on that and go back and look and write down, pay attention to what you've learned, and then move forward. Let's do this next. Let's go here next.
Yeah, so as Suzanne mentioned, there are going to be some notes with the podcast. So we rapid fire went through a lot of different things.
So fun. So grateful for all the families that shared with us.
Yes, and so don't get overwhelmed. We're already overwhelmed enough. Take a couple of these things and work them into your marriage, work them into your lives, and see what God's going to do with your marriage as we go into the transition season of the coronavirus. It's a new world, and we're tackling it new every day. And so proud of the parents, all of you parents that are working through this and are homeschooling and doing life together, working at home. It's a great season of family. It's a great season of life. Suzanne, you have anything you want to finish with?
I don't know, other than if you want to get on our social media, on our Facebook page, our Instagram, and post what you're winning at. We'd love to see some feedback there.
Yeah, we have a crazy cool family community Facebook group. We'd love for you to get involved in it. We've got lots and lots of parents in there, and as well as we have our Crazy Cool Family page itself. So, but look up and just Google, or not Google, in Facebook, just search Crazy Cool Family Community, and you can get on there as well as Instagram, all that stuff. So, so love you, parents. Hope this is a great podcast for you to get some ideas to go after your marriage. See you next time.